trustees, I had to laugh at that. We never.
Welcome back to another edition of Music Monday from the podcast Nurture the Mind. I am your host, Cole Poots, and today we have another music reaction. I am super thrilled, and I'm also super torn. So today that I am recording, it is October 7th of 2023. And just yesterday, we had two projects emerge from the depths from two of my favorite artists of all time. We had Earl Sweatshirt with the producer Alchemist dropping VOIR DIRE. I hope I pronounced that right. And then you had the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Drake himself, drop a project that has been highly anticipated, highly talked about for all the dogs. So I'm very torn because I wanted to listen to both of them, and I wanted to do these reactions on the channel. Normally I'd probably take the music and just digest it in my own capacity, not on camera. So I didn't know who to go to, and I eventually settled on Earl Sweatshirt. His project is much shorter than Drake's. And I don't know how this video is gonna run because I've already heard Sentry featuring Mike. That was the first single that came out. And then I listened to The Caliphate featuring Vince Staples. That was the second single that came out. But even with those two songs, like I listened to them, but I could probably go back to them and listen to them a few more times. I probably didn't get everything that I needed to on the first listen. So I'm going to start with the first song on the album, which is called 100 High Street, but the track is 1 minute and 35 seconds. So I don't know. I may review two songs today, like just go straight into Vin Skully. But then if I set it up that way, then I feel like I got to keep going through the entire album. So I don't know. This might be like its own separate series. I don't know how you guys are, but I am very much the type of person that likes to, like, if it's one of my favorite artists, like, of course, I'm going to go listen to the entire project, the whole album. Especially if it's like a concept album. You can't just, pick and choose songs to listen to. You can't start with track 1 and then go to 9 and then go to 5 and then go to 11. It's not how it works. So, to be honest, I don't know how this is going to pan out. I'm just going to at least start with 100 High Street. That's the first song off the album, and then we'll see. If I feel like it is super short, don't have a whole lot to say, then maybe I'll go into the second track and we'll just combine it in one video. You guys know I love Earl Sweatshirt. Done not a reaction of him in the solo capacity, but I did a reaction of a song that he did with Gene Dawson off of Gene Dawson's album, and I really like that song. And The Alchemist is one of my favorite producers of all time. This is just a great fucking duo right here. I mean, as I've mentioned before, I grew up with Earl Sweatshirt when he was in Odd Future, Wolfgang, that whole collective that Tyler, the Creator, started. And then eventually all of them, they broke up and they went their separate ways. And I would say Earl Sweatshirt has had a pretty good solo career. I think when you're in a group like that, you don't necessarily always get to explore your true identity as an individual. And so I think all those guys needed to separate. Obviously, Tyler, the Creator, has become a massive artist on his own. And again, I don't know if he would have been able to accomplish that if he would have stayed in that place. So I'm very excited for this project. The Alchemist always has the type of production, the type of beats that just send you to another world. I'm always mesmerized when listening to his tracks, to his projects. He's worked with so many different artists. He continues to expand on things that he's already made. I mean, these guys right here, Earl and The Alchemist, they're both very creative, expansive, experimental artists. So I don't know where they're going to go on this project. Like I said, very short, 11 songs, 26 minutes. So where are they going to take us? I don't know, but I'm ready for it. Let's go. 100 High Street, Earl Sweatshirt, The Alchemist, VOIR DIRE. Correct me if I'm wrong on that pronunciation.
steady and unbroken. I was resting on the low end. My prerequisite to going in. I chief recklessly with no end. I went heavy on the dosage. Try and comprehend me like my bro did. I reap everything I sowed in. It seemed effortless with no stitch. It's we steppers, bitch, you know this. Cream crepes in the cold wind. Seen Skeppy out in Shoreditch. He said to telly for the hoes, keep them heifers off your doorstep. Geese feathers under foreheads. Tempur-Pedic with the reaper, got the note that it wasn't easy, but we grown men. I really mean it like the song said. I gotta beat them like the locks, got my demons on the wall press. 4 arms and feet on necks. I'm seeing green like I bought Tris. They in the red like forceps. We beat them like a cheesy joke, even when the freaking horse dead. Quiet on set.
Part played by the royal ancestors as protectors of the land and bringers of the rains is also recognized in popular song.
Alright, dude. This is going to be such a hard reaction. It's the first song, 100 High Street, 1 minute and 35 seconds. Earl is already, like I said, this very complex artist that is very hard to digest. And so when you listen to a guy like this, you have to expect that, I mean, he's talking in tongues. He's so descriptive, but I don't mean that in the sense that it's easy to pick up on what he's describing. He's kind of hiding these messages and the meaning of what he's saying through these words. And I mean, you might be able to get some of it, but I've always made the comparison when listening to Earl Sweatshirt that it is truly like you are dissecting the Bible. The Bible has been around for how many thousands of years, and it's been translated down from different languages. So, I mean, we have a pretty good understanding of what's being said in there. But there's also probably a lot of stuff, especially to a casual reader that may not have that knowledge. They have no idea what's going on. And that's kind of the same thing with Earl. Is like, I don't even know what I really got out of that first track. I'm listening. I have the lyrics pulled up as they're going down. He said things, but it's the first listen. So there's just so many things that are being thrown at you that you're trying to take into consideration. And then there was an outro of some type of words. It sounded like it was a female, probably some type of sample that he pulled from somewhere else. He's been known to do that. Him and Alchemist do that. Alchemist does it in other projects where a song will be at its resting point and maybe like the closing 30 seconds to the track, you start to hear somebody else talking. It could be a scene in a movie. They're very known for that. And so I didn't really pull a whole lot from that song. I'm going to be entirely honest. I thought the instrumental was pleasant. It was basically the same all the way throughout. And then there at the end, there was somewhat of a switch in the sound. You'll probably catch it in the video. I started doing some weird fucking look with my face. And then we transitioned to the end. So I really don't have a whole lot to say on that song, and that's why I said this is going to be a hard reaction. So we're going to have to go straight into Vin Skully off of 100 High Street. This one's a little bit longer, 1 minute and 53 seconds, but it's still not a lot. So I don't know, man. I might have to chunk these up, like go 3 or 4 songs at a time. All right, next song, second track, Vin Skully.
For every problem life seems a faithful friend to share. For every sigh, a sweet song. And an
it's a cool instrumental so far.
You and I have been friends for a long time.
Get grip, get flip, hand over fist, that's quick. Snake oil salesman with the pitch, that's slick. Ain't no telling when it ends. No matter the spin, I know when I gotta hit, that's it. That shit gets sent over the fence. I'm home, another run on the road, look how I slid. I remember the cold and shrugging till I was sore inside the crib. I don't know what it is. I remember the ghost inside the crib, hosing down a problem with gin and tonic. How to stay afloat in a bottomless pit. The trick is to stop falling. Only option to start with a step.
Oh.
Son, father, and death.
Whoa.
Big mama with the vision of sorrow. Now I know why they wet. I watched the grew into a quarrel on them just with a bet. Now we having like Dewey Cox out in his shed. I had to unify all the plurals and pairs. I promise you I'm truly in.
What? Is that a guitar?
A couple side splitters got me out of some jams.
And then just like a little...
So the killers could laugh. Big grip, get flipped, hand over fist, that's quick. Snake oil salesman with the piss. Hey, ain't
Man.
no telling when it ends. No matter the spin, I know when I gotta hit. That's it. That shit gets sent over the fence. I'm home, another run on the road. Look how I slid. I remember the coldness, shrugging till I was sore inside the crib. Now I know what it is.
You know, everybody has their different ways of what they use them for, but we'll let them explain that to you.
All right, dude, that was much better to digest. I feel like I got a little bit more out of that track. Vin Skully, a little bit longer. Probably some of the same things I would say about the first track. Is just the instrumental, man, is the thing that really carries it throughout the entire track. It's funny because a lot of these Alchemist songs, a lot of these Earl Sweatshirt songs, when you listen to the instrumental, it's pretty much the same all the way throughout. So it's basically on this loop and it keeps repeating itself. But I feel like it very rarely gets redundant. And it's probably because these tracks are so short and that's why it doesn't feel redundant. But you would think in a song, instrumental, choices of instruments that you're going to use, you want to switch things up, that, you know, to not that you're making the music for the listener, for the fans, to some extent you are. It's more so for your creative progress. Like the artist, the musician, they are the ones that should be satisfied with what they're making. But you do probably, like, I think a lot of artists, musicians probably just consider the fact that, you know, when they're making a track, when they're making an album, they do want to diversify those things. Like, even if it's one track, you know, and it's 3 or 4 minutes, you want to spice up the sound that you get, you know. Don't make it so redundant, because people are just going to listen to that. And if it gets redundant after a minute, they're just going to turn that shit right the fuck off. He actually had some more interesting lyrics in Vin Skully. I should really pull up Genius, but this is just my honest first reaction. And I'm going to try and remember it to the best of my abilities. He said something about being in a bottomless pit and how do you get yourself out of there. And basically it was like, the key message that he had in his lyrics was stop falling and make that first step out of that bottomless pit if you find yourself falling straight towards hell. Very simplistic, but yet so profound. Everybody knows what I'm talking about here. We've probably all had moments like that in our lives where we have descended to a place that is not favorable. It could be circumstances in life. It could be our own decisions that we've made. But somehow we have gotten to this unfavorable place. And instead of sitting there, instead of wallowing in our sorrow, which, you know, maybe you do that to start out. I think sometimes that's okay, maybe for like 5 to 10 minutes. But then you got to figure out, okay, so I've allowed myself to do that. I'm processing my emotions. I'm allowing myself to feel those emotions and the intensity of them. And now how do we pick ourselves up and get out of it? It's about taking action. It's about taking steps. So many people are looking at, there's a few analogies that come to mind, but, you know, they say, how do you eat an entire elephant? It's one piece at a time. It's one body part at a time. Or if you were looking at the mountain that you had to ascend and you're thinking, holy fuck, how am I going to get up there? Or you're starting college and you're in your first semester and you're like, oh, and you're so overwhelmed in that first week because you're like, how am I going to get all these assignments done? Like, I'm a student athlete. I got other commitments. I'm trying to build relationships. I'm trying to take care of myself. I'm trying to be around my friends. It's overwhelming when you think about it in that capacity, but you tell yourself it's one step at a time. It's a big cliche, but it's the best piece of advice that anybody could ever give, is like, you have to rein yourself in when you're forecasting so much into the future. That's what we humans do. We either think way too far ahead into the future, which causes us a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of uncertainty, because we don't know how things are going to unfold and pan out. Or it's the opposite. It's the reverse. We're looking so far back into the past, and we may be criticizing ourselves for decisions that we've made, mistakes that we've made, and we may be upset at ourselves for all those things that have occurred, all those things that have happened. But, you know, I think in that situation, you look at those things and it's like, well, that should help you. Yeah, you made a mistake, but how are we going to get better moving into the future? And so that was just a very profound line right there. Again, I may have not gotten it to a T as I was rehearsing it, but that kind of like smacked me in the face for a second. And that's why I'm getting back to my earlier points. That's how it is when you listen to Earl, is like, he probably laid out so many paragraphs. He probably said so many things that I just didn't even catch, that I didn't even hear. Because like I said, it's like we're dissecting the Bible right now. But every once in a while, listening to him, especially on that first listen of a new project, you pick up one thing that is like concrete, like super crystal clear. And I think that's why, one of the many reasons why his music has such a high replay value, because it's like every time you go back, you can spot out something different, which is how most music is. But I think Earl Sweatshirt even more, just because, again, he's such a complex artist. Well, I've gone through 2 songs, so, and I feel like it's been really short, and I could probably do one more. So let's go through Sentry featuring Mike. Like I said, I've already heard this song, but I don't remember a whole lot about it. I think I listened to it when it first came out, but I never really went back to it. So I'll probably recognize some things in there, but right now, thinking about it, just because I only heard it like one time, it's probably going to be super hazy. So I think we'll close out this first video. I might just break it up as a series and review the entire album, but do it in like 3 tracks as chunks and then put it out. So let's go through Sentry. It's not Century. Sentry featuring Mike. Earl Sweatshirt fucking me up with these titles for his tracks.
Peace when I'm rolling around. Try to keep me close, but look how when I needed you the most, it was out. The least I could do is account. Peace to read no big amount. Fire in a hole, burning out his soul like they seen a ghost in his shell. Froze up, it's colder than hell. I cleaned up most of myself. I peeled off mold.
Let's start that over.
Peace when I'm rolling around. Try to keep me close, but look how when I needed you the most, it was out. The least I could do is account. Peace to read no big amount. Fire in a hole, burning out his soul like they seen a ghost in his shell. Froze up, it's colder than hell. I cleaned up most of myself. I peeled off more dollar bills for 'em when they peeled off on the bill. Started at the bottom of the hill. Actually, I started in the mid. Actually, I started in Illinois, Coin, so I ain't a kid. Blood stains on my fatherland. Blood stains on my motherland. Tuck clay, all of it's red. Stuck in the jeans and the fabric. In the 23 little strands. Freddie Hubbard sing through the axe. Chop another piece off the branch. Memories careen off the past. Hold them to a screech in their tracks. Had a couple things on my chest. That's where the demons were sit. I took a seat at the head. It's time to eat. I need to breach heavy set. Can't dig what I'm saying. Notice that you easily led. So I took a seat at the head. It's time to eat.
You remember I'm feeling like Aubrey.
Here comes Mike.
Nigga hide above me. I was there when the smile was soft. Know me acting surprised when you call me. But imagine I gave you my all. When my flaws and bribes to adult you. I got tired of staying and talk. Being you high and you say that you are. How you lie to me breaking my heart. How you ride you stay in the car. I get high and pay for my art. So when I'm buying, I'm breaking the car. Always I was breaking apart. I don't lie, you be playing your part. On that island, the flame in the dark. It be silence that make the remarks. Keep it solid, don't change from the start. It be probably you lame from the guard. For it's like you be waiting to start. For pops, you taking in charge. Ain't no watching making it ours. I know mine used to pray I ain't harder. Only sung here and say 'cause they smart.
Man, he just came in and delivered, bro.
Then how did we come here? And tell me too, by what ill fortune did a prince turn into the reclusive hermit you are now, here on this desert isle? Was it because you found the world distasteful, or through the perfidy of some enemy? Is our island a prison or a hermitage? You've hinted at some mystery so many times and aroused my curiosity, and today you shall tell me it all.
So track number 3, Sentry, I keep getting that wrong, featuring Mike. I remember the sound. It came back to me quite naturally. Again, dude, flowing, but not like your typical rap song flow. It's subtle, but then there's so much that goes on in the background that it's really hard to decipher and to dissect. Not hating on Earl Sweatshirt, but I actually think Mike is the one that takes the cake on that song. I thought his flows were better. I thought the subject matter that he was talking about was maybe a little bit more, like, hit home a little bit more. Again, I didn't catch all of it. I caught a little bit of it. He was talking about falling out of love with somebody, reaching the end of a relationship. Earl was talking a little bit about some type of hardship that he went through. I don't know what he's referring to because it's been a few years since his dad passed away, but I remember when he dropped some rap songs back in 2018 that was kind of detailing that experience of when his father passed away. That's one of my favorite Earl Sweatshirt projects, and it's actually a very dark project. I think a lot of his music over the years has detailed just some crazy shit that's gone on in his life. I think he's in a better place now because even before this album was released with the Alchemist, I was watching an interview that he did with Zane Lowe, and he seems like he's in a really good place. I don't think he's married, but he is with a chick, and they do have a kid. So Earl Sweatshirt has become a father in recent years. And I think Earl Sweatshirt is just a little bit older than me. I'm 26. I think he's getting close to 30 if he's not already at 30. But he's dealt with a lot in his life. Like, if you truly follow his story, like, even before he was really able to set in with Odd Future and Gulf Wang, he got sent away. I can't remember the exact place, but his mother sent him away to, I believe, like an all-boys school to, like, discipline him and get him into shape because he was rowdy, and his mom had a hard time handling him. And I think his dad left the scene when he was younger, so there was a little bit of turmoil in that relationship to begin with. He's talked about that on songs, especially Chum off of his first album, Doris. When he was making Doris, his grandma was about ready to pass away, and then I think she eventually did pass away. And then his second album was I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside. So just like the title suggests, like, he spent a lot of time inside. I think this man, even though he does good in talking to people and in crowds, most of his interviews, I think, are really pleasant to listen to. I think he's an introvert, and I can definitely relate to that because I have found out, especially over the last year and a half, I found out that I think I'm an introvert for the most part. I mean, I have extroverted tendencies for sure. We're all humans. We're all social creatures, so we can't go too long without talking to people. But I realize, and I think it's just maybe from my job being a personal trainer and talking to so many different types of people, having clients, each session that we go through is 45 minutes. And even though it's personal training, so we're working on the body, These are therapy sessions at their core. We're helping people identify pitfalls and problems in their lives. And I care about people on a very deep level. And so I'm always asking very tough questions, deep questions, trying to get people to break down some of these bad patterns. And so I find myself, a lot of times at the end of the week on Friday and then on the weekend, I am just so mentally spent that I don't even want to be around people. It's gotten a lot better. I've learned better ways to kind of manage my energy and not give it away so much, but just kind of relating that back to Earl Sweatshirt. I believe he is that person going through that second album, I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside. And then the third one that came out was some rap songs detailing, like I said, his father passed away. And then he comes out with Feet of Clay, which I think is probably an extension of all those other things that were going on. And then I think this project, even though I'm 3 tracks in, there's so much more that I'll have to go through as we listen to the rest of the album. It just seems like Earl's in a much better place on this album so far from what I've heard. And then going back to his last album, which was Sick, ! That came out in early 2022. And it's cool because even on Sick, like it just sounded like he was expanding on his sound. It wasn't so depressive anymore because I really think that 3 album stretch from I Don't Like Shit, I Don't Go Outside to some rap songs and Feet of Clay, like that was a very dark era of Earl. And I think you'll probably see some of those themes even on other albums like Doris, his first project. There's some hard shit that he's talking about on that album, and Sick probably has a few songs like that. I can't remember every song that's on the album. And even from what I've heard so far on VOIR DIRE, there's still some heavy subject matter in there. I don't think he's going as deep into it, maybe as he has on earlier projects. But I just think he's kind of transitioned away from all of that crazy shit that happened to him in his early 20s, early adolescence. And it kind of reminds me of Mac Miller, because I remember Mac Miller was talking about that after getting done with his second album, Watching Movies with the Sound Off, which is one of my favorite projects of all time. And it doesn't necessarily, when I was listening to it back in high school, I didn't feel like it was all built off of negativity or anything like that. I thought there was a lot of positive and fun tracks, but he was, going through a lot of shit as well, trying to deal and adjust to living in the limelight, being famous. And then he comes out with Faces, which again, a great project, but it's all drug induced. And then when he came out with Good AM, which would have been his third album, he said, in an interview, he's like, I was kind of tired of making like these sad, like depressive, like drugged out songs. And supposedly at that time he had gotten off of the hard drugs and he was just smoking weed. But you kind of noticed on Good AM that it started to pick up again. It was kind of more upbeat, like the old Mac Miller, like when he first entered with Blue Slide Park and some of those early mixtapes, and then after that we get a Love album called The Divine Feminine, and then Swimming, and then Circles ultimately kind of had again like some depressing themes, but still like amazing, beautiful songs. And I understand that I'm not hating on Earl or Mac or whoever, like any artist that's creates music like that can be quite dark, quite sinister, quite hard to listen to. It's not something that you play back often and be like, oh, I'm gonna bop this freaking song. I'm not hating on them for that, because I understand that some of the greatest music that has ever been created, that has ever existed, is music that comes from a deeply emotional place. Emotions, as hard as they are to get through as a human, I'm still probably not the best at dealing with my emotions because they hurt. They're so fucking impactful. You feel like at times when they come in waves that they're just gonna capsize your ship, like as if you were out in the ocean stranded alone and all these waves just keep smacking you down. I'm not hating on these guys. at all, because they're two of my favorite artists of all time. Mac Miller's probably number one, and Earl Sweatshirt's probably number two. But, you know, just always creating from a place like that. Mac Miller's point was, you know, I always create from a place like that, come out with an album. Well, it's all that sad content. Well, then you have to take it out on tour and basically relive that depressive headspace, you know, that you were in when you made the album. And so that's what prompted the change for Mac for a short period of time before ultimately his struggles came back. And then I think for Earl, I would just say, and this is like a common thing that I've heard from a lot of people, is that as you transition through adolescence to early adulthood, through your 20s, and then to 30, I've heard from a lot of people, mainly men, that when you hit 30, like that's when things get a lot better for you mentally, personally, your faith in yourself, confidence, self-esteem. The 20s, I would say, are the hardest part of one's life, just because there's such a shift in your identity and like what your priorities are. You know, when you're in high school, when you're an adolescent, maybe even those early years of college, if you end up going to college, a lot of your identity is built around other people. We were taught to live that way, but it's also kind of biological in nature that you're heavily influenced by the peers that you're surrounded by. And so you kind of have to break free from that mold in your 20s, out of high school. And I really think the 20s are just about finding that identity of like, who are you as an individual? And that process may never go away. I mean, we still have the rest of our lives to live. Even in the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s, you're probably still discovering things about yourself. But I think the 20s are really hard just because it's kind of like a free for fucking all. It's like this big fucking canvas that's white, and you're just throwing all these colors in there, trying to create different designs. You're making a lot of mistakes because it's like your first real experience out in the world. And so there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of resentment, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of, for me, anxiety, bro. Like in my 20s, figured out how much anxiety I've been carrying in my head and from when I was a kid, and then really acknowledged the fact that I struggle with OCD. And OCD, just like any other personality trait, is it's a double-edged sword, because in a lot of ways it makes me greater. It makes me focused on growth and always getting better and making better decisions, being healthier, focusing on physical health, mental health, spiritual health, emotional health. But sometimes that OCD kind of picks its way up and kind of fucks me up in negative ways. And sometimes it's really hard to control and manage. So anyways, I've gone on a very long rant. I have thoroughly enjoyed those first 3 tracks. This has been a fun experience. I've never done a video like this where I've done 3 tracks in a row. And now that we've done the first 3, we're going to have to do the next 3, which I just shut my laptop, but let's see. So, the next track would be Heat Check, then it would be Mancala, and then it would be 27 Braids. So I think that's what we'll do for the next video. Maybe I'll record that tomorrow so we can just have these stashed away and ready to release. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll make a decision here soon. Anyways, guys, as always, close it out with the outro. If you're new to the channel, if you found this video, if you go back and watch any of my other videos, there's 4 things that I always ask, and I hope that you guys do one of them, but it'd be cool if you did 2, 3, or all 4. Please like the video. If you're new, if you enjoyed the content, if you liked the message, if you thought it was a good review, if you felt that way, please subscribe to the channel too. There's a lot of people that watch these videos. I wouldn't say like on a consistent, regular basis, but people that come over to the channel and watch the videos and haven't subscribed yet. So please do that. And then also share the message. You can do that in a variety of different ways. You can take what you heard and then have a conversation with somebody that's in your life. It could be a stranger, Could be a family member, could be a friend, could be a relative. It really doesn't matter. But just be like, hey, like this is some cool fucking shit over here on this music reaction channel. And then if you don't do it in that way, you can also share it on social media. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about the internet and social media is like we can spread information like wildfire and get the message out there. And then the last thing is, it's like, dude, if you enjoyed it, like comment on the video, like just send a positive message out there. I try to read all the comments unless it gets to the point where there's a shit ton in there and I just can't read them anymore. And if you have suggestions, so I understand that, you know, my quality of videos, especially like audio and stuff, may not be up to par. I have very like bare minimal equipment, and that'll have to change over time. I'll have to get better equipment, but I do with what I have. I do what I can with what I have. So just keep that in mind, you know. Don't be negative when it comes to that stuff. I don't like haters on this fucking channel or people that are just negative. Try and keep that off the channel. But yeah, and then if you have music that you want me to check out, that you want me to listen to, send it to me. Maybe I haven't heard of it. But do one of those 4 things. That's all I ask. When you do any of those things, it really helps push my message out to the YouTube algorithm and put my videos in front of more people. And that's the only way we grow the channel, is by word of mouth. So I need your guys' help, as I have done my part, and now you got to do your part. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to close this out, and I will see you on the next reaction, the next video. Take care. Bye-bye. Have a blessed weekend. I love you.